Our learning target is, today I will learn about rose windows so that I can create a mixed media collage using a coffee filter and a cut paper design.
Artist, it's Patty from Deep Space Sparkle. We're going to be creating a rose window today, and I'm going to share with you why it's called a rose window. Stained glass windows reached its height of popularity during the medieval and Renaissance times. Windows in the shape of a circle that featured radial symmetry are called rose windows. The Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris is famous for its intricate rose windows.
Okay, that makes sense, but what is radial symmetry? Radial symmetry is also called radial balance. And radial balance is when objects are organized in a way that radiate or come out from a central point in a circle. Radial balance or radial symmetry can be found in nature and in man-made things. One way to check and make sure that something has radial symmetry is to pretend that it is a pie. Could you cut a wedge of pie out of the object and still have the same pieces of pie left? Here are some examples of radial symmetry in nature. Take that orange, for example. If I pretend that it is a pie, I could slice it just like a pie and I would have equal pieces. The same is true for all of these objects. And radial symmetry in art might look something like this, or like the rose windows we are about to create. Let's get started, artists. And the first thing you're going to need to do is locate the coffee filter and black circle along with some markers. Before you do anything else, please put your coffee filter down on a piece of scrap paper. We do not want this color going through and ending up on the table. Since we have just learned about radial symmetry, let's get our color onto the coffee filter in a radial manner as well. In other words, in a circular fashion. I'm starting at the very beginning, the very inside of my coffee filter in the middle, and I am slowly adding color all the way out to the very edges. I'm sure you've noticed by now that the color is going straight through those coffee filters and onto the scrap paper underneath it, which is why it is super important to get something under the coffee filter before you color it. If you're coloring with crayons or colored pencils, it's not nearly as important, but take a look at that. We do not want to end up with a messy ink-filled table. So please be responsible and put a scrap paper underneath. You are free to use any colors you choose. Start in the middle of the coffee filter and work your way out to the edge, adding color and filling up all of the white space. Once your coffee filter is full of color, grab the black circle and fold it in half. Crease it tightly and make sure that the edges are lined up just right. The next step is a bit tricky, the trickiest part perhaps. You have your half circle that you are going to need to fold into thirds. That can be a tricky thing to visualize. What I did is I folded mine and then looked to see if it looked about the same as what was left over. I then fold the back flap towards the back of the triangle. That sounds a little tricky. Let's look at it again. I have my half circle. I am folding 1/3 of it up to the middle, and the last third that's left, I'm folding it to the back. So basically, I have my half circle and then it has been folded into thirds. If I were to open it up, I would have 6 sections. The next thing you're noticing me do is add a line that is about a finger width from the edge of my pie shape. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to create a border around what would be my window panes. I am going to be able to cut this line, but I cannot cut past it toward the edge. And I don't want to cut it off because I definitely need to have that window frame, as we'll call it, for this rose window. See how I've cut each side, but I am not cutting all the way through. Once I have created these cuts, and I did that because now I can create very interesting, almost like snowflake cuts all throughout this black piece of paper. I want to be very careful to not cut the edge of my piece of pie. You can see I'm going at it from different angles. It's a little bit tricky, but I want to snowflake cut this piece of paper so that when I open it up, you can see this is a little stuck here. When I open it up, I want to have an interesting design as the frame for my window. You are free to cut any design you wish. Try different snowflake type of designs or interesting shapes. Just be sure to leave that top part intact and do not cut all the way through, or you won't end up with a frame that you can use. If that does happen, let's say by accident you cut too much and you end up with something that you hadn't planned, the great news is we're going to be gluing this frame onto the coffee filter. So if something happens and you're realizing you've made a mistake, simply glue it down onto the coffee filter the way you would have intended it to be had you not accidentally made that cut. So I'm working very carefully with my scissors. I'm trying to create interesting designs within my black piece of paper. See how I've cut out all those different sections there? Notice though, I'm not cutting all the way through. I'm simply making cuts in the folded edges. I'm going to speed this up a little bit so that we can get to the exciting reveal. All right, there's all the little notches I've taken out, and you can see I'm ready to open up my circle. I have created a radial design by cutting out a whole bunch of little pieces and parts to my paper. And check it out, I'm pretty happy with that design. When I lay it over the top of my coffee filter, I see the color popping through. Be sure that you use some glue, either White School Elmer's glue or the glue stick that we sent home in your supply kit, and add glue to all the edges of your black piece of paper. This could be a little bit tricky because some of those little areas are very small. Just do the best that you can. The good news is it doesn't take a lot of glue to get tissue paper-like substance of the coffee filter to stick, so it shouldn't be a problem at all. Just be sure to take your time. This is now a fragile work of art, and glue it all down onto your coffee filter. The end result should remind you of one of those beautiful rose windows we learned about at the beginning of the video. There should be plenty of color and a nice thick black border. Next, be sure to hang it up on a window and see it shine.